So in case you are wondering which talk are you on, this is going to be the Couchbase Connect performance and scalability of Couchbase Server. How many of you are using 4.1 of Couchbase? Anybody? Oh, one. Okay, two. Anybody's using 4.5? Oh wow, 4.1 and 4.5. Fantastic. Okay, anybody's using 4.0 or earlier? 3x? 3x. Okay. Oh my God, everything. Everything on the kitchen sink. That's great. Okay, cool. All right. Primarily, I will be talking about 4.1 and 4.5. But if you have any specific questions about earlier versions and all, I will take it offline and we can talk about it. And one small request for all of you is if you have questions, please hold it off till the end so that I can complete my presentation and we can take it. I will definitely make sure that I will try my best to address all of your questions, and I will be outside too so we can talk more. Okay. Again, my name is Raju Suravarjjala. I'm the Senior Director for Couchbase. If anybody is having any performance issues, I'm the guy to beat up. So feel free to send me an email. If you have any questions or feedback, don't hesitate to let me know. Just a little bit of a background about Couchbase, and I think most of you might be knowing already, but let me just give you what is the agenda that I'm going to be talking about. So I'll be covering what is Couchbase and why will you choose any NoSQL database, especially Couchbase. And let's talk a little bit about how do you access the data from Couchbase, and also when you are using your application, how do you do the performance aspects of it within the database and also from the application. And we will also talk a little bit about the tuning of NICL. I think everybody might have heard about MDS and multidimensional scalability, and also we'll talk a little bit about it. And what do we do at Couchbase in terms of performance testing? What are the metrics that we collect, and how do we do performance metrics and performance testing at Couchbase? And we will also tell you what are the benchmarks that we are using, and I will talk about a little bit about YCSB, and will give you a small demo with workload A of YCSB. So that's the agenda that we will try to talk about today. So I think you already almost everybody is aware of Couchbase is a distributed operational database, and you can use it for managing the cache. You can also use it for key value storage. Especially it's a document database, and you can use for sync management. Now we have new services coming on board with analytical service, and you can do analytical type of queries also to be run on our database. And of course, you can always use it as an embedded database too. The thing is, we're also having NICL 2i, or the secondary indexing. We call it as 2i internally, but secondary indexing. And we also have the ODBC, JDBC connectors. So if you are using any BI applications and all, you can use our Simba ODBC, JDBC drivers with our partner, and can do deep insights into the data analytics and all. And we also have our own analytical service, which will give you much more deeper insight into the data that you are having. So in terms of Couchbase, what is the significance of it, and the multidimensional scale that we talk about, and the elastic scalability. Anytime you want to add a node, you just bring it up and add a node to the server. That is as simple as that. It could be a data node, it could be a query node, it could be a 2i node, and it could be an analytical node coming soon with our next version. It's TBD yet, but it's in developer preview, so if you want to try it out. You also can do simple administration from within Couchbase, and you also we're also adding the enterprise grade security features, especially with a push button simplicity. So the thing that you need to all know is how do you access data from Couchbase. You can use it using the document ID, and you can also use views with static queries. You can also use queries using NICL, which is our SQL-like syntax, and it's very easy to do joins. You can also do, as I mentioned before, you can use our ODBC, JDBC drivers through Simba, We also have our own proprietary JDBC drivers too, which you can use it for free. But if you want deeper insights from Simba, you can buy our ODBC JDBC drivers from there. One thing that I wanted to make sure that you all understand is you can scale just the data nodes itself, or combined with our query and analytics and 2i or analytics services too. So it's very easy for you to access data within the Couchbase. Let's talk a little bit about performance within the Couchbase and a little bit about the architecture. So we have shared nothing workload distribution. We don't share anything at all, and then it's very easy to do the RAM to RAM replication, and we call our data transfer is called DCP, which is the proprietary protocol that we have, and then we have the managed caching layer, and we also can do a direct client to node communication through our SDKs and all. The other thing is efficient resource utilization. You can have your multi-threaded program accesses without any issues, and then our code data management itself is written in C++ for easier access and efficient data management. We also have the workload isolation, and I touched a little bit on the multi-dimensional scaling, where the data storage, the querying index nodes, and also the indexing nodes are on different nodes. So it's very easy to use us. And then we also use something called append-only data format for efficient resource utilization. So let's talk a little bit about the performance for the application itself. What is the right access pattern that you want to use for your key value, or you want to use nickel? Now we have GSI with the MOI also, which is called memory optimized indexes. So you can use everything in memory when you are doing the querying part also, right? Then you can push down all your data to the data layer. I don't know whether you can see my JSON properly or not there, but you can drill down. And we also have views for people who are using 3x and all. You are all familiar with views and how do you use it's again API based, very easy to use incremental map reduce. That's what we use. And then we use the scatter gather, less scalable for reads, but more scalable for writes. Okay. I'll try to give you a little bit of a picture with indexing. Again, we have two things, as I mentioned before. You can use the traditional way of using the views or using the GSI. And let's say if you want to find the top 10 most active users for the month of January, what do you do first? You will create an index. Again, you can always use the primary index, which is going to be a full table scan, which we don't want to do. So you want to be able to create index on the type customer profile, and then you do your select. And what happens next? So you can, as I said, you can use the local indexes, and where it's all scatter gathered, and the query will go to each nodes, gather the information from everybody, and then re-aggregate the query on one node. So this is what happens. Okay. So now let's try to do the same thing using the nickel. As I mentioned before, it's all about indexing. So if you need any help with choosing the right set of indexes and all, or your application is running very slow, you are expecting very high latency and all, so we can help you out tune your application. You can send out an email to us, or you can ask a question in the forum. We are very active on the forums too, so we'll be able to address it. And in terms of the GSI itself, the global secondary indexes, we have two options. One is what we call as forest DB, which is going to be flushed into the disk, and the other is the MOI, which everything is in the memory only. Again, there are considerations that you need to think about whether which route you want to take. If you want to have more CPU utilization, I mean there are a lot of considerations that you need to have before you choose one way or the other. we can do the global secondary indexes on any JSON field, including nested array structures and all. If you haven't attended a session from Keshav, our director of engineering for the nickel, please do attend. He has more insights into how do you go about creating the secondary indexes and tune your nickel queries itself. Then you can also do the composite indexes too. You can also do functional indexes, and we have something called covering indexes, which is the very neat, in terms of trying to figure out how to get the data out, without doing a full table scan. Again, we have per query scan consistencies. You can use at plus. There are different scan consistencies that you can use. Another thing that I wanted to make sure that you are aware of is you can use our explain plan, just like in any SQL that you use in the relational databases, to see what kind of index is being used and it is what you are expecting to use or not. That is again, that is a neat feature, and it will help you in terms of optimization if you want to try it out yourself. Few little bit of tricks that, if you will, that I can talk about. Always the best practices for performance are use covering indexes, and covering indexes are very easy to use, and you can always get a sub microsecond performance. So if you can, please do use them, and also always avoid intersect scans. Those are very expensive to use intersect scans, and try your best to get the result set as smaller as possible, or use pagination or pretty false. You might want to use some other way of paginating the data so that the result set is small, but don't try to go through the entire data set yourself. It's going to be very expensive for you. I also want to talk to you a little bit about what do we do in terms of testing at Couchbase. So we at Couchbase takes our testing methodology very seriously. Apart from the sanity and unit testing that the developers always do, we will do functional testing, regression testing, system testing, scale testing, and also performance testing. Every release that we do, both the community edition and the enterprise edition, goes through a rigorous continuous integration model of testing. So we have roughly around 4,500 tests per platform. This is not across all the platforms. This is per platform that we try to run, and roughly, again, don't take it to the bank, roughly around 12,000 hours of functional testing that we do, and every minor release also we do around 4,500 hours of testing. And we also do platform certification, whereby you can run it on any platform that you want to run, right? Because every platform that we support, Windows, we support Linux, various flavors of it, and the Dockers right now, and Kubernetes, every platform that you can think of, we are testing it out. We also run at least a minimum of 30 node scalability tests, and also we do at least 130 nodes of testing on a monthly basis, because it's very expensive to do all our testing on that high scale with 130 nodes. We also do performance testing, which is the main purpose you all are here, and also I will talk about the key performance metrics that we gather for our performance testing. We also introduce something called the daily performance test. So unless until our development team gives a handoff with all the performance testing, the daily performance test passes, we won't take it up at all in our QE. We will reject the build, and then they have to fix it. And again, everything is built on Couchbase itself. All the test cases, test suites are all stored, just like eating your own dog food. It's all in our Couchbase, and we will run our suite all from our Couchbase database itself. Okay. Again, we have our own dashboard. that tracks all the testing that we do. On the performance dashboard, we have the backup, the KV, or the key value store, if you will, and the rebalance, view indexing, the nickel, as I mentioned, 2i, and then again 2i is divided into two parts, one both with the MOI versus Forest DB, and then something called YCSB. I will talk about it in a minute, which is the Yahoo Cloud Suite benchmark. And then again it's divided into Windows versus Linux. And I just gave a screenshot of one of the one of the metrics that we are capturing here. Okay, all right. Let's talk about the metrics that we are gathering, and what are the things that we are looking for within the Couchbase. I mean, you all know, when you go to the UI, you will see, if you can see it, I don't know how much it is visible. Now you capture the throughput, the latency, and also for nickel, you can also do your own queries to see whether we are the monitoring itself is happening properly or not. And then if you are using one of our SDKs, again they go through the same kind of operation. Again I will talk about YCSB, which uses our Java SDK to do our internal testing. Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the benchmarks, and I think I just mentioned about the YCSB. So why did we choose YCSB for our benchmarking? And again, what I'm showing here is running a the key value store data for the workload A throughput. Again, if you, I'll give you the links about the Yahoo Cloud YCSB benchmarks, whereby you can learn it yourself. It's all open source. You can, I will give you the link and all, and you can just download it. So as you can see, our Couchbase Server 4.5, and the this is the workload A, which is the 50% read and 50% write. You can see that it's going all the way up to 450K operations. And you might ask, what is the cluster size and how many number of nodes and all. Then again, I have tried to give at the bottom the entire details of our workload A. The workload A is running 16 threads. You can configure the number of threads within the when you are running the YCSB benchmark. You can increase the number of threads and you can try it out. And I do have the information on what happens when you scale up with the next number of threads and all. Okay, one of the questions that might come to you head is, how does YCSB is good, and we know that YCSB can be run against MongoDB or with Cassandra and all. Yes, we are there is a Avalon consulting company did a benchmark with both workload A and workload E. Workload E is the nickel queries, which is the 95% range queries and 95% writes. We are at least 6 times faster than MongoDB, and our scalability is at least 7 times faster than them. So for this is for the workload E. For workload A, it is 12 times faster, and again you can try it out yourself, and if you find any problems with that, you can come back and tell us how we are doing there. Then we also have done our Couchbase metrics to be run on the Google Cloud Engine, and we are 1 million writes per second on the Google Cloud Engine with a latency of 15 milliseconds, and with 95th percentile is at around 27 milliseconds. I mean, this is amazing, and this is done with Couchbase Server 3x, and we are maintaining the same thing right now with 4.1 and 4.5. Although we are adding more and more services, we are making sure that our core competency in the in our performance is still remains the same. Let's talk a little bit about 4.1 and 4.5, what is going on there. And again, as I said, for the YCSB, we have an issue with our Java 1.3 SDK versus Java 2.2. So we fixed that, and now it is available. So if you can download it yourself and try out our suite. We did the Java object cleanup. There was one thread contention that was happening, which was removed now, and if you are using a older SDK, you will see the same, or the newer SDK, you will see the same performance now. We also have added streaming improvements within our Couchbase, so it's much more faster. I think I mentioned before a little bit about the memory optimized indexes that we added, right? Remember, like, you know, within the GSI or the global secondary indexes, you have two options. One is using the Forest DB, which is our data store for the secondary indexes, or you can use the memory optimized indexes. With memory optimized indexes, our throughput is much more higher. Again, as I mentioned before, you need to have more and more RAM. You need to have some considerations before you go after the memory optimized indexes. And again, if you are interested in tuning or what kind of sizing that requirements that you need to have and all, we'll be happy to work with you and can give you information on what is the best node size, or how many number of nodes of data versus query versus secondary indexes and all you can have. We can give you information on that. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the array indexing that has been added in 4.5. This is the improvement in Nickel that we have added, and it gives you much more faster query latency improvement. It used to be very slow, and with array indexes it's much more faster. We also have added flexible joins, whereby the query throughput has increased by 7 times. Again, I don't know how much you can see the images there, but you can see how with the release over release, the improvement is happening. We also have added something called subdocument API, so you don't need to go through the entire document structure itself, but you can say within the document what kind of things that you want to find and all. We have the API for that, so that it's much more easier for you to access the key value that you are looking for, so that you don't have to stream the entire data back at all. So only the whatever are the values that are changed will be streamed through. We have added the enterprise backup and restore, where it is at least 2 times faster. Again, this is there only for our enterprise edition. So if you are okay, you can use our CE edition, but you have to live with a slower performance there, because you don't have the enterprise backup and restore within our community edition. Again, as I was mentioning to you before, we always strive our best to not to do any performance degradation itself on our key value store, right, which is our bread and butter. And we have also added improvements so that it is at least 20% more than our 4.1, and I think it's around 30% more than our 3.x 3.x product. Anyway, the point I'm trying to hit at is as more and more services get added, and you are trying to scale, and you might have 100 nodes, 130 nodes. You can ask how much have you done your testing. We have done up to 130 nodes so far, but we have customers like LinkedIn who are using around 2,800 nodes in their deployment. So no, it's a very, very highly scalable application that you can build on top of Couchbase. In terms of the other performance improvements that we made, this is from I tried to give you a little bit of flavor of 4.1 versus 4.5. Again, with 3 nodes, 24 cores, and 1 bucket. I'm not taking we are not doing with 10 buckets and all, but it's 1 bucket, 1 replica, and 20 million, and a document size of 256 bytes. You will see that there is a 21% improvement from 4.1 to 4.5, and our write improvement also has increased up to 24%. And it happened. This is the beauty of it, right? If you notice, the CPU usage has decreased. So this is how Couchbase takes performance very seriously. Yeah.
So the enterprise backup is a utility in your console, or is it a separate?
No, it's a separate binary within our binary directory. So sorry, the question is where do you find the enterprise backup restore tool, right? That's what is the question. So it's found in the wherever you see the CB backup directory, where the binaries are all there, it's in the same directory.
And the second question is, we attended the Nickel training. How do you create a MOI index as opposed to a index based on?
Okay, the question is how do you set up MOI indexes versus the forest DB indexes, right? So as part of your bucket creation itself, you have the option of picking up which whether you want to persist the data in the indexes into forest DB or as MOI.
So it's not in the create index statement?
No, it's not in the create index statement at all. Yeah, so it's at the bucket level at this point of time, right? Yeah. Okay. So again, the question, I think I repeated it, but if somebody has more questions, we can talk about it. Let's talk a little bit about some tips and tricks about Nickel configuration, and we will also I'll try to give a demo of the YCSB also in a minute. So in terms of the Nickel configuration, you can use the curl command to get the current JSON configuration that you have, and then you can edit the JSON file itself, and you can increase the number of services, or you can change the values that you want to change, for example, increasing the pipeline batch size from 1024 to 4096 in this particular case. And you might ask, why are we doing all these changes? So we have something called max parallelism that we can use within our Nickel configuration. Those are all parameters that are stored within our JSON itself, and this is how you can edit it and get the and then change it and then post it back by editing the file itself. So if you I don't know whether it is documented or not, this is how we do internally in our testing. Okay, let's just do a quick demo. While I'm setting up the demo, hopefully it shows up. Okay, let me see. Okay, I am not. What? Yeah, I'm not able to get my mouse. I need help. Sorry, guys. They showed me how to do it before, but oh, now I got it. Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, all right, let me see if they, yeah. So I have a 8-node cluster, and you can see that I have a bucket, and there's no data in the bucket at all at this point of time, and we will try to populate the, so you might ask, what am I trying to show here? And so I will try to run the YCSB workload A right now, and we'll try to show you what kind of performance that we will see, and we'll go from there. Let's hope that this demo works.
Is it on the same configuration that you showed 8?
Correct, yes, exactly. It's on the same, very much similar, but a little bit different, but it's very much similar. doesn't load. What happened to my? Okay, guys, 1 second. Okay, let's load the data now. All right, so basically what it's doing is it's downloading the YCSB plugin that I was talking about, and it will configure the Couchbase, and it will start loading the data. So if things go fine, we'll start seeing the data loading part here. So you can see the item count is increasing right now. So you can see the data load is happening right now. So like YCSB workload has two parts to it. One is the data loading part, and then running the workload itself. So we're first doing the first part of it, which is the data loading part, and as soon as it finishes, we will run the actual workload part itself, where you will see the 50/50 workload is getting executed. While this is going on, any questions that you might have, I can talk about, and I think within another minute or so, it should finish loading the data.
So the indexes which you said that you have to define at the bucket level,
Yeah.
you are tied to that, but any modification then you need to recreate.
Correct. So the question is whether you are creating the ForestDB indexes or the MOA indexes, you are tied to that particular bucket. Yes, that's correct. The entire bucket, you are stuck with sticking to either ForestDB type of indexes or with the MOA type of indexes. And right now, you cannot change it easily at all. And that's in the future. It is we don't have a coexistence story at this point of time to have both the ForestDB and the MOI indexes to coexist. Yes.
On the performance, you mentioned like a 450K versus some NoSQL. What is the difference? Is that the interface that you ran that thing? At the NoSQL, is that interface to get the data in and out? What it has to do with performance? Which is it like a which tool that you use it to in order to?
No, so the question, if I understand correctly, you are asking about how does our NoSQL be faster than the data, the workload A itself that you have?
The workload A versus workload E, what is the difference?
So yeah, workload A is 50% read and 50% write.
Okay.
So and it's only it has nothing to do with the joins or like anything with the querying at all. It's just the workload itself, doing the reading and writing. Whereas in the workload E, again, this is all public information, so in the YCSB suite itself it is defined. It is about joining the data that you have and querying. Yes. Okay, so you can see the data loading has finished now, and we will do the workload A execution at this point of time. So let me get my cheat sheet again. So now it is doing the workload A execution itself. So you will see in a minute, like, what's happening here. So what I showed you about, like, so you will see the execution going on, and like roughly around 450K is what I showed you, and you can see that at this point of time. So I will let this finish. Like, it will take few minutes to finish this, but you can see the operations going on at this point of time. So this is YCSB live demo for you, like, against Couchbase. And we can run the same thing on other databases too, like Mongo or Cassandra and all, depending upon your setup. You just need to change the plugin that you have and work with that database. I think I mentioned it before, but what is happening right now is it's going through YCSB uses Java SDK internally. So this is going through our Java SDK. And again, it's divided into two pieces. If you want our Couchbase older version, it uses the 1.3 SDK, and this is the one that uses the 2.x SDK. So like, I will let that finish. In the meantime, I can take more questions if people have. Yeah, workload A is like, is in between, like, selects are some like, from the whatever bucket you have, whereas the data is between this to that. Yeah.
You mentioned, what, 103 metrics that you're tracking?
Yes.
Are they all accessible via an API into Couchbase?
Yeah, the question is, I talked about 103 metrics and whether all of them are accessible through the API. I would say roughly half of them are accessible through the API. Rest of them are all like, internally that we have, like, that you can query. But we can, at some point of time, we will be exposing all of them. But at this point of time, you cannot access all of them.
You mentioned we can query them, so are we able to use Nickel to query?
Yes, you can use Nickel to query them, and also right now we can go to the system request. Okay, sorry. The question is, how can you get the rest of the metrics? Yes, you can use Nickel to query them. And then, like, I can share these queries with you. Yeah.
So, sorry, just the earlier question about the MOI versus the standard. Is it at cluster level or bucket level?
It's at the bucket level.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was cluster level.
Yeah, but in the sense, like, once you are stuck, like, you will be stuck with that, and for the entire cluster.
But the setting is cluster wide, right?
Correct. Correct. Yes,
So
exactly.
on the whole cluster, you can select
MOI.
optimize.
Correct. Correct.
And
Exactly.
you can't have any standard.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's correct. You cannot interchange them at this point of time. So that's why you are right. Like, it's all at the.
Cluster level, not
Yeah, not at the bucket level. Correct. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Good point. Any other questions? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Going back to the metrics, how long will they live for within Couchbase?
So.
Instantaneous, or like you're running a test here?
Yeah, they are. So the question is, how long the metrics will stay till the like, active requests are completed. For example, for Nickel, if you are trying to query something and it's a long running query that is happening, till that query is finished, you can say what are the top queries, 10 queries that are running. You can also say things like, like, who is the offending, what is the offending query that I have. Those will run till that query is finished, right? But after that.
So is there any historical metrics?
Historical metrics at this point of time, we don't have them, but I believe that is coming up. I will check with Keshav and get back to you on that. Yeah. Okay. This might take few more minutes to complete. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, this is the demo that I have, guys. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
When you do the testing, do you test with XDCR?
Yes, we do also test with XDCR.
All the benchmark number is published with the XDCR enabled.
Not all of them, but some of them are published with the XDCR enabled. Yes, and I can share those with you. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. The question is, what kind of metrics are available when you are testing through XDCR? Whether all of them are available or not? The answer is no. Like, I can share with you. Some of them are available through XDCR, and I can share it with you. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Okay, let me just recap and complete my presentation. Hopefully, you can see it. Okay, as in summary, what I have to share is like we have performance tests, as I mentioned, that run on daily and weekly basis, and I gave you some numbers that in the beginning about around 5,000 hours of performance testing that we spend on a major release, and for a minor release around couple of thousand hours. And I think I talked about the metrics, and we are also now trying to have this YCSB workload A and E to be run on both 4 node and also 8 node cluster. I just demoed, and we will not be signing off if there is a regression from what we observed in the past. So the idea is to continuously improve it, but don't have any way to go back at all. There is no regressions allowed. Okay, and yeah, so that's the main presentation that I have. Any other questions or anything that you have? I'm here. I can take some more questions if you have.
When is that historical metrics part going to come?
I don't have the roadmap at all defined at this point of time, but I can share it. Whoever is interested, I can take your email ID and get back to you.
Requested 2 years back, so it's not that maybe it is dumped already. So 2 years is a long time, but yeah, just thought that maybe because you guys are more aggressively now rolling the versions, right? So
Correct, yeah. But yeah, I'll check back on that and get back to you on that, yeah. Okay, that's a good question, yes.
Different talks, like not in the same user, like what is the edition version, different features, like community edition versus enterprise edition? Do you have the comparison, or is that available on?
Yeah, it's available on our website. Yes, it's available on our website, and we constantly update it with every release. So traditionally, what we are doing is, the question is, what is the difference between our community edition and enterprise edition, and is it documented anywhere? It's documented in our website. All our security features traditionally have been enterprise only, and auditing is another piece, is again security related. It is only enterprise only, and then the max parallelism and some of the nickel tuning that you can do to enhance your query performance are all enterprise only, right? So I mean, and again, it's all documented in our website. Okay, thank you everyone, and hopefully you enjoy.